Good evening, everybody. I call to order this regular meeting of the Village of Westmont Planning and Zoning Commission for May 14th, 2025. Do we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Simpson? Oh, he's on the phone here. Commissioner Thomas?
Here.
Commissioner Peterson's here. Commissioner Sharp?
Here.
Commissioner Lynn?
Here.
Commissioner Donahue?
Here.
Chairperson Carmichael?
Here. Tom, I got to get you to sign that. Okay, we have a quorum. Would everyone please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And while you're standing, anyone who testifies before the commission needs to be sworn in, so please raise your right hand and say that any and all testimony you give will be the complete truth. Thank you. First item is the approval of minutes of our May 7th, 2025 special meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, Thomas.
Okay, motion moved and seconded. Discussion? We have discussion?
No, I just second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson votes yes. Commissioner Sharp?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Abstain, I just walked in.
And Chairperson Carmichael?
Yes. Okay, so we'll announce that Commissioner Simpson has walked in and we have a full commission.
If you couldn't hear his vote, he abstained on the last vote.
Yeah, and he abstained on that. Minutes approval. And reminder for everyone, including me, to silence any and all electronic devices. And I'll do a quick review of our public hearing procedures for those of you who are unfamiliar. First, we will introduce the petitioner who will come to the podium and present his or her petition. That then will be followed by staff comments on the background and any other details of the application. Then the public gets a chance to weigh in. Everyone who testifies comes to the podium and addresses the commission. We don't want discussions where people are turning around and talking to people in the audience and back and forth. And then once that public testimony is complete, we go to the commissioners. Commissioners can make their comments, can call applicants back to the podium for comments and questions. And finally, hopefully, we get to a vote. And a reminder also that I'm sure you know that this is a recommending body only, that our recommendation, whether it's thumbs up or thumbs down, goes to the village board, and they can take our recommendation or not, but the village board will have the final authority. Any questions from the public on public hearing procedures? Okay. Next item under old business, we have none tonight. Under new business, let's start with B, public hearing PZC 005-2025, a request from KidVest Limited Liability Corporation doing business as Primrose School of Westmont, the petitioner, and PNC Holdings, the owner, for the property at 98 East Naperville Road, for the following. A zoning ordinance variance to allow for playground and equipment to encroach into the required supplemental setback line to Naperville Road and within a required front yard setback in the B2 General Business District. Secondly, a site and landscape plan approval. Good evening, sir.
How's it going? My name is Chris Horney. I work for a company called Murphy Development Group based out of Chicago. I live in Glen Ellen. And so we'll walk through. We also, here tonight, have CJ, who is going to be the franchisee for Primrose, and then a representative from Primrose as well, to the extent you all have questions. So I'll be represented as the developer, but we also have other folks here as well. So, talking about 98 East Naperville in Westmont, and if I use the,
If you just hit the arrows, it should work.
oh, it's like zoomed in.
Oh.
Oh,
Hit
okay.
down.
Okay, down. Got it. A little cut off, but that's okay. So, Murphy Development Group, we're based out of Chicago. Primarily, we do hospitality, apartments, and we do a lot of build-to-suit childcare. So, in the last 4 years, we've developed 32, 33 childcare schools for multiple brands across the country. Excited to do one in our backyard because I'm in an airplane a lot, so this is exciting for us. And many of them, about half of them are adaptive reuse, so taking an existing building and converting, primarily in more established areas like Westmont, where just the availability of a vacant 2-acre parcel is just not typically around. So this is a pretty typical use for us, which is to convert old office, old medical office. Those are the two most common, sometimes old restaurants. And so that's what the plan is here today, and we're going to talk through that. A little bit about the tenant. So Primrose, if you know childcare, Primrose is a very, very well-known brand across the country. They have over 500 schools, 100,000 students, 33 states, many in Illinois as well. It's in terms of, in the scale of sort of brand types, it's a high-end a childcare provider. And they take pride in that. It's a very nice school. They do very nice finishes and provide, it is not just babysitting, to be clear. They're prepping for kindergarten readiness. They're really trying to educate these children, even though, not a 9-month-old, but, by the time 3, 4, 5, 6, they're really working through that. And then CJ, Primrose is a franchise-driven model. So CJ is local here, lives in Hinsdale, and would be the franchisee, will be the owner and operator of the school, running the school. And so that's important. So it is both corporate as a large company, but you have someone local here running the school and making a large investment into that. Talk a little bit about it's an existing 2-story building, roughly 30,000 square feet. One thing to note here, we line out where our property is with this yellow line. You can see Naperville Road at one point, it's maybe not obvious here, but at one point cut all the way through. That was taken and put into green space, and it's a little bit of a kind of like a stormwater retention. Technically, so we can talk a little bit about the setback, but our front yard is that yellow line that's angled, and so part of the setback is like, yes, it is close to that line, but there's a very far distance between us and the street, and so that's a little bit unusual. That's not a very typical situation in this case. So a little bit more about the school and the application. We walked through. It is an improved use, but we are requesting a zoning variance on the front yard playground because it is close against that angled line. And then the 10-foot setback on the south property line, which is that setback. And then a variance request to move our parking spots from 10-foot width, which is your guideline, to 9-foot. Again, we do these all across the country. I would say 75% of the schools that we have are the 9-foot width, and it's it's a very workable solution. Like, you can't go down to 8 feet, but 9 feet is very normal and fine. And we'll talk about this more in the parking, but this is not it's not an elementary school. It doesn't have a start time that is defined, right? So when the pickoff drop-off process, you go in, you pull in, you park, and you walk your child into school and check them in. So that's important. There's not some queuing drive line. And so for us, the 9 feet works, and we don't see impact to that. And the reason we want to do that is we pick up 3 or 4 additional parking spaces, which we think is important just for our operational use. And it is above still, either scenario, it's still above your guys' zoning requirements, but for operational purposes, we find it to be more useful. So it's an existing 32,000 square foot building. There are still folks that you're going to hear from that are currently on the first floor, Salt Creek Ballet, which is the entire first floor at this moment. And then the second floor is general office space. The owner of the building is on that second floor. They are selling and vacating that space. The daycare would be on the first floor, and then transitioning Salt Creek up to the second floor. And there's some additional space left over in that scenario. The space would be home to up to 182 children, though reality is that will take multiple years. Daycares don't open like restaurants. You don't open to 100% full, although you'd love to. It's just the reality is it takes at earliest 2 years, but sometimes 3 or 4 years to fully stabilize. Because if you think about it, it's very easy to get young children. Most of those parents don't have childcare yet. You're unlikely to get a 4-year-old because if they need childcare, they're already typically in a space, and you age them up. So it takes time to kind of grow that. Hours of operation, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Again, there is no defined drop-off time period or pickup time period. We'll go through there's a bar chart that we have from Primrose that just talks about in Chicagoland, here's the sort of typical traffic pattern of when that is. And especially post-COVID, you'd be surprised how spread out it really is, because people go in at different times. Even folks who work remote need childcare. With that March 2020 time period, I had a 1, 4, and 6-year-old. My wife's a nurse, and it is literally impossible to work from home with young children like that. So it is still good, but the reason I bring that up is that they're more flexible on when they can drop off their child than someone who's got to hit the train at 7:30 and they drop off right at 7:01, right? We don't have anything on the weekends. Really, very rarely, once every 4 to 6 months would be something in the evening. This is all important because the traffic patterns of us and Salt Creek are effectively opposite. We're daytime, they're evening time. So, what else? Staff at full capacity, we would have up to 30 during the day. That tails off in the morning and in the evening, because again, not everyone is there at the same time, but call it 10 to 5 is where you're gonna have that full staff when we're fully staffed. But start to tail off in the beginning and the evening. This is the site plan, and in the 2 hatched areas, one on the north side of this picture is one playground that butts up against the apartment building parking lot that is just north of us. There's a great difference between a fence and then the south one, again here, is along our angled property line, but then there's that large grassy expanse between us and what ends up being Chicago Avenue before that. We are shrinking the parking lot a little bit to fit in the green space. State of Illinois Health Department requires a certain amount of green space per child. And so we're not doing this because we want, of course, we certainly want large green space areas, but there's also requirements in terms of the size for the playground areas. So it's roughly 9,000 square feet that we have between the 3 different playgrounds. And there's 3 different because those are different age group playgrounds for each of them. And they have different types of equipment for the different age groups. Ingress and egress aren't changing. The opening's not changing. And really, the bulk of the parking lot isn't changing, we're just chopping off a portion of the top of the parking lot to build in that. We are keeping, in this plan, we are keeping 43 parking spaces, which does exceed your requirements. But, like we said, we want to drop that one from 10 to 9 to pick up a few additional spaces because it is quite useful for us operationally. Inside on the first floor, not that it super matters to you all, but it's just a series of classrooms with some indoor playground space in that center room. When it gets super cold, they still have a place to play, but it's a series of classrooms that sort of ring the entire edge of the building. Here's our landscaping plan. That'd probably be better if you had documents. A view of the existing building that's been recently painted, and you can kind of see it. This was a one-story building a long time ago. They've effectively kind of built a steel structure that kind of fit a second floor on top. And so it's kind of two separate structures that are on top of each other. That's why you see the difference between the masonry and the metal panel, as it is. Some typical examples of site signage for what we would be wanting to do. This is the typical Primrose monument sign that would sit up towards the front of the property, and then there would be also a sign sort of above the entrance as well. In terms of fencing, typically the bulk of the fencing is a black aluminum steel picket fence, the spacing of which, again, this is a highly regulated industry. The spacing is dictated by the state health departments. You don't want little kids escaping, so it's a fairly tight spacing, very little, no gap on the bottom, and a certain height required as well, all dictated by the health departments, and that's a state by state, but it's pretty consistent across. In terms of the traffic patterns, again, these are sign-ins and sign-outs per day per school in the Chicagoland area. So what you see on the right is the morning, and on the left is the afternoon, and these are 15-minute time periods. So a couple different things to think here. It is very common to have siblings, and so the average number of kids per family is 1.3 when you're picking up. So even though if you had 100 kids, you're not actually having 100 trips, right? Because that's reduced by about 30% by the additional, overlap there. And as you see here, it's also split up over a pretty long period of time. 63% of the students are between 7 and 9, and that's still a fair amount after 9. And then 75% are between 3 and 6. No peak time period reaches more than 10% of the overall population. So for us, that would equal about 13 spaces. So that keeps us, still working within our, even at peak, if we had all of our employees, we would still be able to accommodate them. That actually doesn't happen because the number of employees at the beginning or the end will be about 5 to 10 less. And so that's just the typical traffic patterns. We're obviously working with an existing building, but I wanted to give you a flavor of the type of product that Primrose is building across the country. Again, higher end, very nice materials inside and out. They use a turf for their playground areas, nice equipment with sunshades, and then on the inside, looks like a child care facility that you'd see. Happy to answer any questions that you guys have of myself and or CJ. Happy to answer anything you guys have.
Okay, thank you. Staff comments?
Thank you, Chair. So we have two requests here. We have a request for the variance because of a playground that encroaches into the front yard setback, and then we also have a site and landscape plan approval. The property here at, if you want to go to the site plan, it'd be great. At 98 East Naperville Road, it also has an address, 98 East Chicago. As Chris already mentioned, the roadway on Naperville was rerouted in the early 2000s. It cut back where Naperville ends by quite a bit, and it left a green space in front of this building that's technically the public right-of-way still. So on many documents, it still shows as if there's a roadway still there. There's also this little triangle piece you can see outlined on the plan, on the aerial image, and that portion's private property. It's actually owned by the Matthiases that own a property across the street. So there's some lingering parcels within the right-of-way here as well. And you might notice if you've driven by recently, this property has slowly been improving with some public works initiatives. So you might see some newer trees right out front there too. So the property is located between Cass and Warwick at the corner. The two-story building, because of the way it was built, effectively is almost structurally almost two separate buildings on top of each other. It's a pretty unique building in this area. The property is located in the B2 General Business District. Some of the surrounding properties have pretty mixed zoning. So to the north, you have the R3 district, which is single-family homes. That property actually has multifamily on it. Some of the neighboring properties are also B2, and it's very near to the downtown B1 limited business district as well. As Chris mentioned, the use is a permitted use, so a daycare is a permitted use in this district. So their approvals aren't really focused on the use itself. It's focused on the site plan and the variance that Chris and Primrose are requesting. The outdoor area in the front encroaches, I believe it's about 7.5 feet into the required 10-foot front yard setback. So that encroachment is from the property line into the property. And then there's a second supplemental setback, which is 30 feet from Naperville Road, which is measured from that same line. So there's really effectively two separate setback lines on this property. The supplemental setbacks because of the way the roadway was taken away, are effectively creating a unique condition in this case because the roadway's actually a bit further from the property line than the old roadway was on Naperville Road. So with variance requests, I'm mostly saying this because we have new commissioners who haven't dealt with this type of request before. With variances, the commission is looking at the evidence presented for the unique condition of the property and the three standards. The three standards are that the property cannot yield a reasonable return under the current regulations of the zoning ordinance. The owner's plight is due to unique circumstance, and the variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. So those are the three standards for the variance request. Moving on to the site plan request, site and landscape plan. In your packet, you should have a version of the site plan and the landscape plan, as well as some of the tree removal documents as part of the landscape plan. With site and landscape plan approvals with existing properties that are already improved, staff has to work to figure out what is the best thing to ask for. We can't assume the building's gonna come up to code because they're not touching the building. So we're looking at the rest of the site to see where improvements can be made based on what they're updating. So in this case, we have the parking lot and some of these outdoor areas that they're looking at updating. So we asked for landscaping around the perimeter of the parking lot. And then obviously they're required to have fencing anyway for these outdoor play areas. The fencing requirement is being met. Other improvements that they're showing include the dumpster enclosure on the north end of the property in the parking lot. They are showing some of the signage locations. Any of the signs they're showing still have to come in for permits to be approved. They're showing the general sign location and some of the landscape around that. Those details are being met with the setbacks and the landscape standards for signage. The landscape standards that they are providing are up to code for, or compliance for what we would require for a parking lot that's adjacent to a building and outdoor areas. The parking lot itself, as Chris already mentioned, they're proposing 43 parking spaces, which is exceeding the minimum requirement of 28 spaces when you consider the daycare use, and then our second case tonight, which is Salt Creek Ballet as a performing arts studio use. So that's with the combination of both of them. You may have heard Chris mentioned what is not a variance request, it's a waiver request for the reduced parking stall sizes. Waiver requests are viewed by the village board, not by planning and zoning, but you are reviewing it because it's part of their site plan for the reduced stall sizes. So effectively, if you approve the site plan, you're putting a stamp on the waiver request. But that's ultimately up to the village board to decide if they can remove that. The reason it's a waiver request is because it's in the engineering code, not in the zoning ordinance. So that's the distinction between a waiver and then the variance. So the property owner, or not property owner, the petitioner is also requesting with this application DIP funding. DIP is our Downtown Incentive Program. So they are in the process of that application, which is viewed by the village board for a final vote. But they are requesting grant funding at Tier 3, which is the highest amount. We currently have a lot of funds left over. We haven't had a lot of cases where they've been requesting money. So this is one of those that they're in the area of the grant process and they're requesting it.
Which is outside your purview, but it's just information.
Correct, yes. The thing you might also notice that's not included in the packet that we usually see with site plan approvals are elevations of buildings. Since the building is existing and they're not proposing major improvements to the exterior of the building, they did some repainting already on the building. We did not require them to submit elevations because structurally it's going to be the same building. If they do propose substantial changes to the elevations, they may have to come back in. We do have other processes at the staff level to approve those for minor improvements. That's about all I have. The one thing I do want to mention is in front of the building with the variance request, they are proposing fencing around these play areas. There is going to be I believe it's a 3.5-foot buffer from the property line to that play area. The sidewalk itself, there's two sidewalks here. One is directly adjacent to the property line, and one is along the other roadway to the south, and then Warwick kind of makes a triangle. They have discussed with the Public Works Department about looking at restructuring where that sidewalk leads to, because it leads to a parking lot for the multifamily next door. It kind of dead ends. So they're seeing what they can do with it. There's no definite plans. You should assume that the sidewalk's not changing with the plans in front of you, because those are not in place yet.
And it's not on our land, right?
Correct, yeah. So they don't have the ability, because it's not on their property, to make those changes without at least talking with Public Works and seeing if they're able to change it or not. But right now, there's no plans to. I'm open to questions from the commission.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's first go to the public. Is there anyone present here who would like to address the commission on these two agenda items? Seeing none, we'll go to the commissioners. Mike, you want to start?
Sure. Scott, what's the setbacks for the B2 about not just the front, but also the interior side yard? Like, if there's any?
The front, I believe, is 10 feet, and that's in the B2 generally. With the supplemental setback, it's 30 feet here technically. The side yard, I believe, is 5 foot, depending on what the building type is. But in this case, it would be 5 feet.
Is there, so can you explain again what the
Yeah.
the supplemental set, I didn't.
So we have a variety of roads in the village that have what are called supplemental setback lines. Some of them, for example, on Cass Avenue, we recently discussed at previous meetings. Some of those are measured from the midpoint line of the roadway itself into towards the property lines that are adjacent to it. In this case, Naperville Road and Chicago both have supplemental setback lines. Naperville Road in particular is measured from the property line or the right-of-way line, so wherever the right-of-way starts, it's measured into the property, and this one is 30 feet from that setback.
Seeing that it's just a vacant piece of grass, like, I'm just curious, and I know this isn't really for them to wonder about, but yeah, does the village have any plans to maybe even to vacate it, to turn it into a piece of property or into anything like that?
I don't know of any plans. I do know we have, their Public Works has a beautification to some of these smaller properties the village owns throughout the downtown largely. One of them was the temporary park that went up. So part of all those processes, you've slowly seen some landscaping pop up. I believe our forester's in charge of that. In particular, there was planting of trees in this little triangle, but beyond that, I don't know of any other additional plans to make it private.
Okay, and then, I see. Yeah, those are my questions for now, anyway, Scott.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Simpson.
Just a few things that are, the biggest concern I had related to parking. I'm familiar, there's another daycare center here in Westmont, and I'm familiar with the pickup and drop-off. I have 2 children of my own, so I understand the hours. I have no issue in terms of the congestion. Not everyone shows up at the same time. Probably right around 5 o'clock when everyone gets off is the worst out of it.
Sure.
What I'm concerned about is the flow going in and out.
Yep.
One thing that always seems helpful is having a drop-off area or pickup area so that, to make it so that the cars can keep going, so you're not reversing obviously in and out. It looks like, I think you're constrained just because of the parking you have. What I'm most concerned about is if you do hit your maximum amount at 182, and I know this isn't an imminent problem.
Yep.
I don't know if you alone have adequate parking, so then what I struggle with is, does the ballet run operate during the same timeline? Because I'm operating in my head knowing that an alternative one has more parking and it gets filled, but that's the only thing going on is the daycare. My concern here is if you start having people who do not attend that daycare, who are now getting dropped off at the same time people are getting picked up, that's my concern. Is that you have kids too, so that's, I'm just trying to understand how we're working around the hours with the ballet school.
Good question. So 2 parts. One, those folks are much older, right? So they actually, a lot of them are like drop off and mom or dad are coming back in an hour or 2 hours, right? So they're not typically parking, staying. Most of them aren't. I mean, I'll let her. Do you want me to? Yeah, you're welcome to answer that part because their parking is slightly. Is that?
That's fine, yeah.
Yes, certainly. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lauren Kavanaugh. I'm the president of the Board of Directors of Salt Creek. Thanks for having me. So during our weekdays, to answer the pickup questions, during the weekdays, it's mostly our older dancers where the parents don't stay. They don't stay long term. They either drop off currently right in front of our entrance door and then they leave, or they park, walk their dancer in and then leave. Mostly with the older dancers, they do a drop-off, but drop-offs, we have classes that start at 4, so you get, some people at 4, and then you get some people, the older dancers maybe start showing up around 5:36. So there will be some overlap, but again, during the weekday, it's our older dancers who we don't require as much parking, and I have a whole slide on our parking too. But we don't require that much parking on the weekday evenings.
Is the earliest you start, did you say you start at 4? during the weekdays, or is it earlier?
Yeah, we open, our dance school opens at 4 o'clock.
Okay, and then how many employees do you guys have?
What did I put in, 9?
Up to 9.
Up to 9.
Okay.
Up to 9. But our front office, we're kind of complicated. Our front office has different hours than our dance school.
Sure.
Because, we get administrative work done during the day.
Sure.
So I have a couple slides on depicting all of that. But generally, to answer your direct question as to weekday evenings, it's generally older dancers where we don't require as much parking.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have one question. The gym to, would that be your west?
Yeah, I think it's Iron
Yeah.
Fitness.
Do they, because they run classes early in the morning and they also
Yeah.
run classes later on in the afternoon,
Yep.
very, adjacent to
Yeah.
drop off and pickup time.
Yeah.
I thought I heard this, that the overflow from their parking lot, if they've got busy classes, fills into Salt Creek. Is that accurate?
That I don't have any direct knowledge of.
Okay.
I've never heard that, and usually we hear some, information from parents. I personally have not heard that before, so I don't know if I can accurately comment or answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump in really quick just for parking because I didn't get into the details about it. It is in your staff report on page 4. So the daycare itself, the required parking is determined off employees. So it's 1 off-street parking space for each 2 employees based on the maximum of the employees at the premise at any time. And then for the dance school or performing arts studio, the total number required is determined by 1 parking space for each 2 employees plus 1 space for each 7 students given on the premise at one time. So they're providing 43 parking spaces. Our code only requires 28 technically. So they're above the minimum requirement for zoning purposes. Again, they're working with an existing building on the site for flow. So they're trying to make adjustments there, but parking wise, technically they're covered.
Do we have, I'm okay to keep it short. Do we have any concerns now with an increased traffic during those times? Are there proposals to restrict? So now I'm thinking, okay, parents are coming in and out. My biggest concern, by the way, is pickup, like right at 4 to, like that 3 to 5, because parents are tired during the day, distracted, and my concern is just if you have people, and my daughter's in dance as well, so I understand the youngers usually go earlier, the later kids are up later, which makes sense for a whole host of reasons. But my concern here is, those are usually the parents that would stay. I don't have a concern at once it's after 5 or 6, because at the end of the day, most of those kids are getting dropped off. That's not where the dilemma or the problem is going to come in. My concern here is, okay, now we've introduced more traffic right at peak rush hour. Do we now have a concern as we have ballet coming in, daycare going out, and now potential, are we going to have people trying to go eastbound on Chicago blocking traffic? Is this something where we're proposing traffic control, where right turn out only during certain times as well? Or has that come up, or something that's considered?
So because of the existing use and then the permitted use of a daycare, we did not require a full traffic study on the property. You would usually require for a special use. But because it's a permitted use, we did not require it. They did provide pretty substantial numbers for us for what we call a parking statement that was reviewed by our engineer. And he did not provide any worry regarding the type of use moving into the property.
I will say that tangentially, like, the angled parking, although that's not what we would normally design, does sort of guide people into a specific pattern, right? They have to go in, go right, that's where you pick up, drop off, and then you're exiting, whereas a more traditional sort of perpendicular parking does introduce a little bit more of that. I'm trying to back out. Everyone who's pulling in is, kind of going one way and then exiting one way. So that does help. Not like we were trying to be smart about it. That's just that's what it is today to maximize it. And so that does help us a little bit. You honestly don't even need to put arrows, because it's obvious after the first time you do that where you're going and how you're going to go. So that does help us to address your concern.
No, absolutely.
Near the garbage enclosure, is that a pavement change that you have written 13 feet?
Sorry, is that a what change?
Is that like a type of pavement change? Is it I assume that the lot is asphalt, and is it near the park?
Concrete, right now it's asphalt. Currently, right now, the dumpster is just kind of like tucked up in the front, behind a bush, basically. We're gonna build a traditional dumpster enclosure with fencing and put it in the back. Those trucks are quite heavy and destructive, and so we don't put it on asphalt, we put it on concrete, poured concrete, so that it lasts when they bang it back down on the ground. So that's what that is, but it'll be enclosed as well.
But that's just an apron for the dumpsters. It just gets very close to like that island, and I was just, there's not gonna actually be, I wonder if there's a way to zoom in on, yeah, I'm looking at that drawing. I think.
You're looking at this right here is what you're
Right.
talking about.
Yeah, thank you. Like,
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, I see where there's like the fenced-in area, I wonder if that's where the dumpsters are, or are the dumpsters also gonna be outside that fenced-in area?
No. It's just in the fenced-in. The dumpsters will be in the fenced-in area.
Right.
But the way those trucks work, I mean, when they're lifting and you kind of want your concrete under the whole truck. That's why that's.
I'll mention staff did originally they had the dumpster enclosure in the front parking space towards Naperville. We did request it to be moved back, just so the trash or the garbage truck could pull in and out a little bit easier.
I understand that there's no traffic study, I'm just eyeballing, so I could be absolutely wrong, but just, in talking about the flows of traffic and things, and again, I'm not speaking from any professional, angle, but like, it just looks like a tight right corner, like there's
Yeah,
a.
we did a turn study with,
Yeah, did-
they required for the fire truck, and it does pass.
Okay,
We do have the ability, if he wanted to ask us to sort of
to broaden.
bend off that right side, but Scott has that.
Yeah, our fire department, a reviewer for the fire department requires a turning radius exhibit. We don't usually include it in here because it's just an extra document, and they have to comply with it. So in this case, they reviewed it, complies with the fire truck turning radius. If you don't know, the fire trucks keep getting bigger and bigger. So we just had a newer one, I think like 3 years ago, a new spec sheet for that, which they comply with. And then our engineer didn't see issues regarding the apron, and I think it's largely because of the distance between the apron from Chicago to the actual property line is pretty large, so he didn't see any site issues regarding that.
That's what I thought too, is that might actually help with any
Queuing
kind of
and-
backup.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Simpson, did you have any further questions?
No, the only assumption is that you guys are making this kind of together, and both of your companies are in agreement with each other. In my mind, if there's a parking issue, it's gonna affect one of you, so to me, they can't come back and say, well, it's affecting my business, because you guys would be the ones
and to be
objecting against each
clear,
other.
The end game is that Salt Creek has a lease with CJ for the second floor space.
Sure.
If they have a problem, CJ has a problem as well.
Correct, no,
So,
I'm just making it so that we don't have the issue here.
No doubt about it.
And it's a great business model, because some of those kids will obviously take ballet, which is great, so
Yeah.
I have no issues with that. If staff is good with the parking, that's my biggest concern, and the exit out. But if a traffic study's not done, and at the end of the day, is their current required parking for their current use or prior use higher than what it is for the daycare?
So the current use on the first floor is Salt Creek right now, and then on the second floor, we have offices. It's gone through changes before with different offices on the second floor. I'll say because of how old this property is, I can't say for certain. There's no approved site plan for the property, so I can't say for certain if it would meet code or not. But generally, for Salt Creek, they would be under for just their use on the property because they're under for the reduced parking amount they are showing here. Offices are generally done at an employee count, similar to a daycare. So it's pretty equatable. If that's a real word.
Yeah. And then just the last item that I have is, are there going to be any type of kind of concrete barricades, especially if the, and I want to make sure I'm understanding this right, is there going to be 2 playground areas?
It's actually
One to the south and one on the west?
3. There's the
Okay.
large rectangular one, this one just beside the handicap spots, if you can see that.
Here and here?
Those are, you
Okay.
can see my mouse. And then this sort of,
It's the middle, okay, so the one that I'm most concerned is everything on the east side there, that one and the down one, so.
this one.
Yeah, these two, just the cars that are parking there, are there gonna be, kind of those 6-foot long
Yeah, so you're gonna have.
concrete? I don't
you
see it
have
on here, but I recognize it
You
might
have the
not.
curb, and then you'll have curb stops to,
Okay,
because the alternative, which we don't love doing, because it's kind of unsightly, is to do bollards, like, in front of the fencing, and it's just like, it's not a great look. It looks a lot more institutional than you want it to do.
Sure.
And so you can do the curb plus curb stops in front of that, like the parking stops.
okay.
Look, if someone jumps both of those things, like, they're also, I mean,
That's exactly my
at some
thought
point, you
process.
can't prevent everything, right?
But there's curb stops as well as the curb, so that's.
Correct. And the reality is, like, the kids out on the playground are there 10 to 2:30. Like, they're not there at the end of the day or the very
Right.
beginning of the day. So that doesn't really overlap. But it is a thought of ours because you got to stay safe.
It's also fenced too, is it?
Correct, it's fenced, but, I mean, it's an aluminum fence. You're not gonna, you want to run that over, you're going to.
Am I incorrect in stating, I think CJ let us know that it's some crash resistant, is that right?
It is, but
To a degree.
I mean, if you got a big truck, like, not much.
I have no.
Okay, Commissioner Donahue, what do you have?
I'm good.
Okay. Commissioner Thomas. I'm sorry, Tom. You go.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. I was also concerned about that middle playground, and I'm thinking more in terms of kids or parents walking. It looks like maybe it's a 3.5 or 4 foot sidewalk between the curb and the fence. I'm thinking of.
6 feet.
Really?
Yeah,
Because the
it's hard to
doors-
see.
The doors
I-
on the playground look.
Yeah, I mean, if you can see it right here, it is 6 feet.
That's good to know. I mean, I'm
You're on the landscape plan.
I'm on the landscape plan.
If you go to the site plan,
the 16 right
you
here.
can see the dimension.
I got
Is it on the other side?
Yeah. It's still pretty hard to see these things.
It's hard to see, it's very small, but
Where does it? Oh, yeah,
6 and then 16.
okay. Yeah, my concern is similar in that without a wheel stop, the car often overhangs, especially on a diagonal parking stall, it can overhang quite significantly. And you could just, if you're not paying attention, you're getting your phone out to get out of your pocket. You know, my daycare, I have to get my phone to like scan out my kid. So if you're just not paying attention, you could hit somebody with the bumper of your car. So I would want to see on an approved site plan, wheel stops added to those parking spaces along the east side or the west side of the building. There's also on the site plan, one new HVAC unit possibly, or I forget the wording, it says proposed or possible. I also see on the survey, though, that there's a lot of AC units on the,
there's a bunch of small, for lack of a better word, small packaged units that sit along, maybe it's better if I find the elevation. You can kind of see it a little bit here. This is now the eastern
The east side.
elevation. Under this little alcove, there's a series of packaged units, and heaved sidewalk
Okay.
situations. So what our plan is to do is, all those are gonna come out. We'll take out the heaved sidewalks. We'll replace where we need, and then if you go to the landscaping plan, all of that's gonna be covered. You won't
Yeah.
see those.
That's my point.
Yep.
I want to make sure that the approved landscape plan has any exterior equipment drawn and appropriate, vegetation in front of it.
Yep.
If it changes from this plan, maybe this plan shows it accurately. In terms of the south playground being, it was 2 or 2.5 feet from the property line, the landscape plan and the demo plan, all the plans don't really show that sidewalk that exists right outside that property line, but we do show what appears to be very, very low ground cover right on the south side of that fence,
Let me see if I can find.
abutting the property line.
No, right now it's grass. I can't, it's hard to, maybe,
Yeah,
it's just a grassy expanse. My yellow line goes over where the sidewalk is. If
Okay.
you look to the sidewalk, if you look on the screen here, if you look to the sidewalk here, it extends, and you can kind of see it come right here. But there's also the sidewalk along Warwick and the sidewalk along
Yeah.
Chicago, so like, there's really not,
there's not a lot of, I think
I
it would
can't
only be-
fathom
it
who's
would only be
actually
people who are
walking.
trying to take a shortcut, basically, up to Warwick, would use that sidewalk.
the only people who would, I guess, would be possibly somebody who's coming from this fitness village that walked up, like, it's a pretty, again, it's not our sidewalk to.
Yeah, right.
to move if it gets.
No,
removed, but
my
it's-
comment is, if the sidewalk remains, which is what we should assume, can we get something a little taller between the fence and the sidewalk, just to prevent, you guys do a lot more of these than I've reviewed, certainly, but my thought is having something taller, like a 36-inch shrub, just to have a physical barrier between a pedestrian and a child that's right up against that public sidewalk would be nice.
Got it.
It seems a tad safer to me.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, although we have requested that sidewalk be removed.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's a little bit.
Well, I'm just
unusual
thinking, because you
how-
guys have 30 inches, and then the sidewalk from the survey,
It's
it's
not
set
right.
back another 2 feet from its property line, so really, there's like 4 feet there
Yep.
of grassy space before you hit, so there's enough room for a shrub to be on your property, I think.
Certainly.
Um,
Can I take this one?
Yeah.
So this is really a security issue.
Please come to the microphone.
So this is a security issue.
Introduce yourself,
Yes,
sir.
sorry. My name is CJ Bach. I would be the operator of the school here. This is a security issue. Best practice is you don't have shrubs adjacent to playgrounds so that you don't have potential predators hiding.
Oh, so it's
out.
the opposite of what I was thinking.
It is the opposite. The alternative is you basically make it a block off the fence entirely so nobody can see inside, which tends to be not preferred by municipalities.
Okay, all right, so I learned something. Yeah, I was thinking like, I don't want some stranger handing something to a child through a fence that maybe that child shouldn't have, so put a barrier. But I also understand the idea of hiding things in the barrier, so I'll trust your judgment on that.
Yeah, but best practice is a full line of sight for teachers.
Okay.
And frankly, part of the appeal for the site for us is all the work that the village has put into their very well thought out oak hickory forest in front of this. So it does, create when you look at most of the other schools in the area, they're up against Ogden, or, you just don't have the setbacks that you effectively have here. And I would argue there actually are 3 walkways going through this space right now, because the village also put in a nice meandering walkway through the oak hickory forest that will be there in 30 years.
My final question is really just about pickup and drop off. At my children's elementary schools, there is typically a line, and the school says, thou shalt start the line here and then 3 cars move up at a time, or 7 cars, depending on which school you're talking about, and it's like a carousel that goes round and round.
Yep.
Is that kind of the way it will play out here, that a lot of people will not even park, they'll just stand in line?
Can't do that.
No.
Because you've got like your 2-year-old. You're not opening the door and saying, shuffle
So
along.
teachers are not walking kids out to
No,
cars,
because
you
you-
have to park.
When we go back to this traffic, the reason they have this is because you go in, I think you pick the, like, either you have a card or you have it on your phone, and you literally digitally check in your child, and you have to, you know, grab your child, take them out of the class, or check them in. Like, there's no drop-off of,
Okay.
you know, a 0 to 6-year-old. It's just not, it's not feasible, it's not practical. So you are parking, getting out, walking your child in, or carrying your child in, depending
Okay.
on how small.
That's good to hear. I mean, I appreciate that, because that's also a more conservative approach to parking, right? Is assuming everyone's going to stop and park and get out, so.
No, it's not a quick, like, it's, you know, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how old your child is,
Yeah.
probably. Older kids, you can get them in, get them out quick. The younger are
Okay.
a little longer, but.
Okay, and then my final question is really just to staff. How does the village treat artificial turf? And is there a permeability or lot coverage area on the site, or problem on the site?
So it's dependent on how the astroturf, is what I call it, astroturf is constructed. Some of them have some permeable base to it where the water actually can filter through some way. On this site in particular, we do not have a lot coverage regulation. In the B2 district in general, we don't have a lot coverage. The standards are largely derived from any of the county and local amendments for stormwater.
Right.
We did have our engineer review this. When they come in for permits, we'll have a better idea of what they're actually installing in particular. It'd have to be up to what that requirement.
And it'll meet whatever code.
Yeah.
And we are reducing, actually.
Yes, I believe so.
impermeable,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
because what we're taking out is parking lot to replace it with the green space. And it is permeable. It has to be, really, because otherwise you basically create a pool, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. And so there's under drains, and that it does drain. Even with, you know, you'll see some with mulch. We do things without primrose as well. And we have to put under drains under all those as well, because otherwise, even if it's just mulch and a border, creates like just a
pot of water.
yeah, a pot, basically. So we have multiple under drains that will drain out too.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. I'm really excited about what seems to be a good marriage with these two uses, and the improvement overall on the site is really exciting. So I'm definitely in favor. I don't see it, because of the uniqueness of the south side of the property, I don't have any issues with the variance for the fence.
Commissioner Thomas, what do you say?
You guys have done an excellent job in planning and that. I like the fence. It's the parking and the system that's already in place. You know, it's not like it's brand new and everybody's going to have to learn it. Everybody that goes in there knows what the system is. And it is in a unique location as far as roads and property lines and sidewalks and
It's unusual, but.
you name it, it's there, you know, and I think you guys have done an excellent job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a comment too.
Another comment?
Yeah, if you don't
Go
mind.
ahead, sir.
Okay, sorry, can you show, or can you indicate where's the main entrance to the building?
Yeah, sure. Right, so there's going to be this entrance right here.
That is?
Main entrance is the one by the handicap parking.
Yeah, so you've got the new door here. So we've got the stairs and the reception. There's double doors. Maybe let me find the elevations. Right. So Salt Creek has their entrance here. That will not be the main entrance. The main entrance is where this,
So,
the addition, because you'll see on the right is where the elevator is, and the left is the stairs. There's double doors, and that's where our main entrance would be be, that's where the office folks go in, to head upstairs.
So,
That's where our main entrance would be.
so for both uses, both Salt Creek and the childcare and Primrose is on that left one, or no?
Correct, so because they will go up the elevator, right, there's, to get to the second floor, there's stairs and elevator there, but that's how we'll get up to the second floor or into the first. Right, if you go to the floor plan, you can see the reception area. We'll keep that door as it exists today, but, and these doors for egress and, to get out to the playgrounds, but the main entrance will be where, what appears like the main traditional entrance.
That's for both uses.
Correct.
So if you go into that doorway, on the proposed floor plan for Salt Creek as well, there's stairs on one side, elevator on the other, right when you walk in.
That's for the northmost one you're talking about?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's also stairs on the south end. I don't know if those are gonna be accessible or not,
There's
but.
a third set of stairs on the other corner, again, because of the way this thing was built. But, yeah, you could have someone go in that other stair to get to the second floor, but realistically, you want to kind of control and give an accessible entrance to the folks who need to get to the second floor, and that's why you keep it in that area.
Yeah, no, I was about to comment about the location of the handicap spots, because I thought the main entrance was down south, but no, you do have it in the right spot, because you kept it up towards the north, right? So,
Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, so,
They are currently on the south, if you looked at this picture. But we're moving
currently, yeah.
to the other side.
Commissioner Peterson, what say you?
I also have concerns about parking, like big concerns, but if the village is saying it's okay and you're saying it's okay, you know, who am I to argue? But I just envision, maybe not at first, but down the road, that there's gonna be parking issues. I just don't think there's enough parking, but like I say, everyone says it's okay, so that'll, you know, and it will hugely increase traffic in that area, but I don't see how it can get much worse than it is right now, so,
Yeah, to answer your question, I would say that traffic is the number one thing we talk about when we come to these, no matter what the site location is, frankly.
Right.
And I think the biggest misconception is that most people in their heads think the elementary school pickup and drop off, and it's just it's over a much longer period of time, and especially post-COVID, it's even more spread out than it used to be, because there's just less people doing the 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, which is very traditional.
well, not just parking for you, but, you know,
No doubt about
for
it.
the dance studio, but I'm sure you all will work it out, you know, if any issues arise. But I just wanted to mention that, yeah, it doesn't seem like it might work, but I'm not an engineer.
Yeah, there's a reason why we asked to shrink that 10 to 9, because 9 is pretty common in a lot of municipalities, and we do want those, despite not being required per code, like, we do want those extra 3 or 4 spaces. We think it's prudent to have them.
Is the parking lot gonna be like where they have the arrows to show, you know,
Well, I
go
mean,
around?
we could add them, but, I mean, frankly, given where the angled parking is, it kind of, I would hope someone doesn't drive in straight and realize, doesn't mean people don't.
Tell you how many times I'm at Jewel, and I only look the way cars are supposed to be coming,
Yeah,
you know, but that's,
yeah. Unfortunately,
Generally, parking such arrows and things like that, striping is reviewed by our engineer ultimately. So he may require it because of the angled parking later
okay.
on. If you do want to require it, you can always make a motion to add that as a condition
No,
for
I'm sure
approval. But
it'll be fine. I was just curious. And
this one right there, it's not a big deal.
generally, our engineer's pretty good.
Most likely, you'll end up putting a sign that says like one way right here on this first island, and that's probably enough to kind of nudge people in the right direction.
Are you offering any programs like some of the other facilities in town, before school and after school?
I will allow the operators to answer that question, so.
You know, before school and after school, they a lot of times come on buses, and then they get bused to the school. Is this Primrose, do you do that?
That is not common in our system. There are some, schools are generally not designed that way anymore. I think as many states have moved towards expanding the public offering for younger children, that part of the business model has kind of disappeared in most parts of the US. So if the state now is requiring mandatory pre-K or full-day kindergarten, the private market doesn't offer that service anymore. So our assumption right now is that there's no demand for that. And we're focused on kind of the two working parent households who need care throughout the day.
Okay, what ages are allowed to go here? From what age to what age?
So theoretically, you can start as young as 6 weeks. Practically, there's so much, well, both parental choice, but also there's so much demand for infant care that you don't end up getting spaces until you're 6 months, 7 months old. But the ratios are all controlled by the state. Generally, we can start as early as 6 weeks. Practically, you start at 6 months, and the bulk of your students are going to go through age 4 or 5, depending upon when they feel ready to transition into
Okay, so that's the range for the whole school.
Yeah.
The little tykes. Okay. Okay, and maybe it was a question for him. If the TIF funding doesn't go through, that's not going to affect the project, right?
And by TIF funding, you mean the,
Downtown incentive
DIP,
program.
the DIP, Downtown Improvement Program.
Right, but they're
DIP.
requesting money from there. I'm not 100% sure on how the TIF thing works, but that's not a condition on if you're going to do the project or not. Is that correct?
Correct. I would say that money is really designed as incentives to align with the priorities of the village. So there are specific things around lighting or the dumpster enclosure as an example that are, we would be incentivized to do them to a higher standard than what is required by code. And so that's the idea of making the project as attractive as possible to the desires of the village.
And maybe I missed it. Are you doing facade alterations to the outside or no?
This is one of the things that we are discussing with the village in terms of, the assumption is there will be more windows put in. The building right now was a supermarket, at times acted like a warehouse, and now is a mixture of a dance school and offices upstairs. So the assumption is that we will be punching windows into the facade. And we're talking with the village around, do we put extra money into awnings or something like that as part of the DIP program?
Okay.
So with the DIP program, Downtown Incentive Program, it's a grant program.
Right.
The difficulty with the grant, and it's a newer program, it popped up, I believe, last year. With that program, the requirements for submitting are much higher than what we require for planning and zoning, because we have to look at if it's feasible. We have to have, it's basically almost like a permit submittal, because we have to take the amount that they're projecting would cost them to put it in. We have to get receipts after. So in this case, they want to make sure that the site plan can be approved how it is, and then if they're able to make it look nicer, they might have to come back in if they're doing major improvements to the facade, as would be a requirement with the DIP funds if they're doing major improvements. And that's at the discretion of the community development director. So if there are major improvements, they'd come back in, but the funding mechanism is up to the village board ultimately for if they're going to give the money or not. But we do have a large pot of money for the incentive program. Basically, focus on aesthetics, They have a separate mechanism for like fire suppression and things like that, but.
Okay, thanks, Scott. My only other question was in all these drawings, you know, you have your signs all over, but there'll still be the dance studio will be allowed to have signs, right?
Correct.
Okay. That's all like in the permit process and all that?
So with signage in the village, they show examples. The requirements are in the village code for what they are allotted based on, usually it's the building size or lot line size or lot width, depending on the use and zoning district. So they'd have to come into compliance with all of that. Otherwise, they'd have to come back in and get approval for a variance of some kind. But we allow both businesses to have signage on the ground sign, wall signage as well.
Okay, that's all I have. I'm very excited. This is a great project. I'm in favor of it, and I think it'll go good, and it's a perfect area for it. So, thank you.
And thank you. It's been a good discussion here. And all my questions have been answered, and then quite a few more. I also think this is a beautiful fit between Primrose and the Salt Creek Ballet. And I'm happy to see Salt Creek remaining in Westmont. So under PZC 005-2025, first, a zoning ordinance variance to allow for playground and equipment to encroach into the required supplemental setback line for Naperville Road and within a required front yard setback in the B2 General Business District. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion Simpson?
The motion Simpson, second?
Second, Thomas.
Second, Thomas. Any more discussion or questions on this variance?
I have a motion I want to put for the site plan approval, just to add, excuse me, to add wheel stops on the approved site plan.
So that'll be the second motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can do
Okay,
that then.
so we'll do this first, okay? Motion and second.
Yeah.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Sharp,
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Donahue,
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson votes yes, Chairperson Carmichael.
Yes. And secondly, under the same PZC 005-2025, site and landscape plan approval. Motion?
So moved, Thomas.
And
Is there a
before
motion?
you make that motion, can we say with the added stipulation that curb wheel stops be installed?
With wheel stops installed on the east row of parking.
East row of parking.
Can I clarify just really quick? Do you want that shown on the site plan before they go to the village board? Or do you want them to have a note sent to the village board saying they will?
Whatever is most expedient.
Okay. So we'll leave it up to the village
Yeah.
staff.
Okay.
Either is fine.
Okay.
It's not a big deal.
So we need a motion subject to that, including that condition.
So moved.
Second Simpson?
Simpson first.
Motion Sharp, second Simpson. Good. No more discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Lynn,
Yes.
Commissioner Donahue,
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson votes yes, Commissioner Sharp,
Yes.
and Chairperson Carmichael.
Yes. Well, there you have it, gentlemen. Staff will let you know when you're scheduled to come before the village board.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good luck.
I believe I have a tentative date for that, if I can find it. That would be the May 29th village board meeting, and then I'll reach out to confirm, especially with the changes.
All right, next agenda item, PZC 007-2025, request from Salt Creek Ballet Company, petitioner, and PNC Holdings, the owner, at 98 East Naperville Road for the following. First, a special use permit to operate a performing arts studio in the B2 General Business District. And second, a zoning ordinance variance to the special condition that requires 100-foot distance separation between a performing arts studio and a residential district.
Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Lauren Kavanaugh. I'm the president of the board of directors of Salt Creek Ballet. Thank you for having me here tonight. Cover photos from Swan Lake from 2 years ago. Who we are. So we've been around since it's our big 40th anniversary this year. We're founded in 1985 as an Illinois 501c3 non-for-profit organization. Even though it's our 40th year in existence, this is our 39th year of the Nutcracker. That's what we're probably most known for beyond our school. So we serve audiences of over 10,000 people annually. We have classes, ballet classes, modern, jazz, contemporary for dancers 2.5 years to retirees. We're a pre-professional ballet company that produces high quality and professional performances. So our mission is to offer high quality dance instruction to children of all ages. We're primarily ballet with jazz, musical theater, character, and modern contemporary dances. We present professional quality performances to diverse area audiences, and we contract with world-renowned professional guest artists that come in and perform some lead roles for us. A big part of our mission is giving back to the community and other nonprofits by making art and dance accessible to all. We do a Dance Explorers program, conduct music and movement classes. We have an angel ticket program, which is we collect funds and give tickets to people who cannot afford to attend our Nutcracker or our spring productions. Some of our partners are listed here: People's Resource Center, C-SPAR, Maze Lake. And then I made a Westmont specific slide. So we go into your schools, kindergarten to third grade. We bring a program to them called Literacy Through Dance. It's basically a music and movement class. So we've been doing that since 2008, which is it's a wonderful partnership we have here in Westmont. We've also performed at the Westmont Public Library since 2011, and then many Westmont appearances. I listed them there. We don't need to read through those, but we love being here in Westmont, and we love supporting you all. So our ask tonight is twofold: a special use approval of our use, the Performing Arts Studio, so we may relocate our studios to the second floor of the building we are already in. And secondly, the variance approval so that we may continue our existing operations within 100 feet of a residential area. So our hours of operation, again, a little complicated. We have front office hours and then also dance school hours. So front office, some of our employees show up, we work, 9 a.m. to some work like 9 to 1, 9 to 2. Then we have a second group that come in the afternoon and work the afternoons and evenings. Friday we're closed, Sunday we're closed, Saturday 8 to 6. Usually it's not fully until 6, but 8 a.m. to 6 are front office hours, and then we're closed during holiday breaks and then 2 months over the summer. Now our dance school is a little different. Friday we are closed and Sunday we are closed most of the year. Monday to Thursday, 4 p.m. to 8:30. Those are when our classes for our pre-professional students take place. We do have a couple adult classes that take place in the mornings. There's no classes on Tuesday, so it's just Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and they usually start around 9:30 or 10 and just last an hour. And then, again, the dance school is closed during holiday breaks and 2 months over the summer. And then during Nutcracker season, Saturday hours may be added or extended, and then Sunday hours may be added, but Primrose is closed on the weekends. So during our busy days, Nutcracker season, they are closed. Number of employees, we currently have 9 employees. 2 are full-time and 7 are part-time, working on one or multiple days at various times. So again, morning shift, afternoon, evening shift, Tuesday, Thursdays, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So we're kind of all over the place there too. Our anticipated parking demands, usually during the weekdays, morning, daytime, There's about average of 10 cars in the parking lot. Evening weekdays, 12 to 15, and then weekends, 20 to 30, because that's when our youngest students come and take their class on Saturday mornings, and that's the parental pool where they park and they stay for the hour and a half class. Questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Staff?
Thank you, Chair. So the request for Salt Creek Ballet is the same location, obviously, at 98 East Naperville Road, sometimes called 98 East Chicago. The two requests, as Lauren mentioned already, are for a special use permit to operate a performing arts studio in the B2 district, and a zoning ordinance variance request to the special condition, the requirement from 100 feet distance separation from a residential district. So Lauren already mentioned Salt Creek's been there for about 25 years as a non-conforming use on the first floor. The reason it's not conforming is because our current code requires a special use permit for a performing arts studio in the B2 district. We could not locate any approvals for the Salt Creek when they originally moved in. They likely moved in before that was a requirement. So they are considered non-conforming use. With the change in the location in the building and on the property of the performing arts studio to the second floor, it triggers some of our non-conforming clauses in our code. Specifically, it's Appendix A, Section 12.03D. It states that non-conforming uses of land cannot be relocated to another location on the same lot unless it conforms to all regulation of the zoning district after being relocated. So for them to continue operating on the same piece of property, they have to get a special use permit approved by the village board. With that, because of where the distance from the building, or where the building already exists on the property, to the north is a residential district, zoned R3, which is single family. As I already mentioned, it's a multifamily building on that property, which is also not conforming to that property. The building, I believe, I don't remember the exact distance, but I can pull it from the staff report. I think it's about 3 or 4 feet from the property line, if I'm not mistaken. So for them to get the special use approved, they have to also request the variance from that distance requirement. I'm not going to go into the details about what Lauren already said regarding the use itself. She gave a good overview about the hours of operation and the parking, proposed parking. The one thing I will add is they are largely on off hours of the daycare use that we just listened to. So we did not require any special parking study because they were already existing on the property with the special use. And Primrose provided their daycare numbers already. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you. Anyone in the public like to step up and address the commission? Seeing none, let's go to the commissioners. Commissioner Lynn, would you start again?
No, I don't have any questions. I mean, it seems pretty harmless to go from one floor to the next. So I don't have any concerns.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Simpson?
Thanks for staying in Westmont. Best of luck to all of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Donahue?
I agree. Nothing here. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Sharp?
Just as a comment to staff, I think normally, correct me if I'm wrong, normally a special use, or what does trigger a traffic, in this situation, what would have triggered a traffic study?
If we had a completely new use in building, it's up to our engineer to make that determination on what they believe will be an impact. Basically, they review the study if it comes in.
It's not required with every
There's
special
no
use.
requirement in our code that states you need to provide a traffic study. Generally, one of the special conditions is there's no traffic or parking concerns for special use. So that's where it's derived from, is provide the evidence that you're meeting the standard. Staff believe they sufficiently provided enough.
Okay. The reason I asked that question was because it may have shown some light on the the concerns that various people have had in terms of pickup and drop off, because they study not just the overall, the code's looking at parking spaces for use and not necessarily the timelines of those uses, so. I don't have any other concerns with the variance. It's certainly a unique situation that deserves a variance, and the special use has been operating successfully since the 90s, so I'm very much in favor. Also really appreciate you guys in Westmont, and really, again, I'm excited about the project.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas?
It's not like you just showed up.
We did not.
I know I supported, all your plans are positive and forward thinking and that, and you're looking to take care of the kids and their safety and that. I support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Peterson?
When you were going through all that stuff, it said you run that whole facility and teach all those kids and do all that with only 9 employees?
Do you want to come work for us? No.
I'm
yes,
just
we
shocked.
do. We do. Yeah.
Wow.
We do. Yeah. Currently, we have 2
awesome.
artistic directors, an operations manager, and then some admin staff, support staff, who take those morning or evening shifts. And then we have a very supportive board of directors, that volunteer a lot of their time too to help with,
Awesome.
marketing efforts or fundraising efforts and, everything. Yeah.
I'm glad you get to stay in our lovely town.
Yes. Yes. We're excited.
That's all I have.
Thank you. I guess if I have a question, it'd be for staff, more than you. The uniqueness of this building, building a floor on top of an existing building, is fire code the same? You have two stairs at the northwest and southwest corners?
There's a 3rd staircase in the northeast corner too.
There's a 3rd in the northeast. And all of those would satisfy any emergency exit?
They would have to comply with it. Usually fire develops what's required based on a use system. It's a fire use system, assembly uses, that type of stuff. And then we just have the building regulations from the model code.
So, but even since this is a different use, it would still be not an issue. Okay. Anybody want to have a question or comment, then Chair would entertain a motion to approve under PZC 007-2025 a special use permit to operate performing arts studio in the B2 General Business District.
So moved. Sharp?
Second, Simpson?
Okay, move Sharp, second Simpson.
Oh.
Discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Donahue?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes?
Commissioner Peterson votes yes. Commissioner Sharp?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
And Chairperson Carmichael?
Yes. And zoning ordinance variance to the special condition that requires 100-foot distance separation between a performing arts studio and a residence district. Do I have a motion?
Motion Simpson?
Motion Simpson.
Second Donahue.
Second Donahue. Discussion? No? Roll call.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson votes yes. Commissioner Sharp?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Donahue?
Yes.
And Chairperson Carmichael?
Yes. There you have it, folks. Again, staff will notify you when you're scheduled to appear before the village board. Good luck. Thanks for coming.
Do we have to do anything?
Well, at this point, agenda item A, I'm going to move to next month's regular meeting, June 11th. And to confirm with village attorney, do I need to read that?
We should, read the agenda item and ask for a motion to.
I thought we had to do
well,
ZZ Nails.
Actually, let's read the agenda item, open the public hearing, and then ask for a motion to continue to
Got it.
June 11th.
Okay. So third item under new business tonight is a public hearing, PZC 006-2025, a request from Z Nails Incorporated, the petitioner, and Richmond Station, the owner, for the property at 42 South Cass, for the following. First, a special use permit, well, first and only, a special use permit to operate a beauty parlor located on the ground floor in the B1 Limited Business District. And I would entertain a motion to continue this until the June 11th meeting.
So moved, Thomas.
I think there's a question on
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, and a second?
sorry, second. Sharp.
Second Sharp?
I just needed it to
Now,
be me.
discussion?
One question. These gentlemen are not the applicants, correct?
Correct.
No.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we weren't like calling it, that's fine.
Okay. So I have a motion and a second, and no further discussion. Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson votes yes. Commissioner Sharp?
Yes.
Commissioner Lynn?
Yes.
Commissioner Donahue?
Yes.
Commissioner Simpson?
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes?
Chairperson Carmichael?
Yes. Okay, so that is moved to next month. Next agenda item is open forum. The public comment rules and procedures are set forth under Chapter 2, Section 266 of the Westmont Code of Ordinances. Public comment is allowed for matters of public concern that are not on tonight's agenda. And public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Do we have anyone who would like to address the board on an agenda item? Okay, it's not on tonight's agenda. Next, under miscellaneous, just our next regular meeting will be at 6 PM on June 11th. And before I call for a motion to adjourn, I point out that tomorrow is Memorial Officers, Peace Officers Memorial Day, which police who have, and fire personnel who have died and been disabled on duty are honored. And it's standard procedure that people fly their flags at half-mast from dawn to dusk tomorrow. So I'd encourage that. Any other discussion anywhere? Otherwise, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Can I ask how many items are on the June 11th meeting currently?
I can attempt to answer that. We have currently at least one additional item as new business, looking like it's 2 new items. The zoning ordinance update as an old agenda item will be at that meeting as well. We will open it up for additional public comment, and the hope is to get through the rest of the articles for that one.
Okay.
No proposed new language at that meeting, though.
Got it.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last sentence?
There's no proposed new language for the zoning ordinance update at the next regularly scheduled meeting. We are going through the rest of the commissioner comments and then coming back with the new.
All right. All in favor of adjourning this meeting? Oh,
A motion to adjourn.
need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Sharp.
Sharp. Second?
Second, Simpson.
Simpson. Discussion? All in favor? Raise your right hand. This meeting's adjourned at 7:34.